Maya Brooks stood in the waiting chamber, her hands steady despite the roaring crowd beyond the metal walls. The sound reminded her of ocean waves crashing against Alaskan cliffs, constant and unstoppable. She was 19 years old, 5 feet and 4 inches tall, and weighed barely 120 pounds. In 2 minutes, she would walk into an arena designed to break warriors 3 times her size. Ambassador Chen paced behind her, his formal robes swishing with each anxious step. He had tried everything to stop this. For 3 days, he argued with the Crithian officials. For 3 days, they laughed at him. Now there was no choice left. "You can still refuse," Chen said quietly, though they both knew the truth. Maya shook her head. "If I refuse, every human in the galaxy becomes a coward in their eyes. Earth loses the trade agreements, the colony rights. Everything we worked for." But the Crithians were different. The Crithian Empire controlled 40 star systems. They were warriors, conquerors, and they respected only strength. When they looked at humans, they saw soft skin, weak bones, and slow reflexes. They called Earth a Deathworld, a planet so dangerous that only the most pathetic species needed such a hostile environment to survive. "Deathworlders," they said with contempt. "You only lived because your planet did the fighting for you." "The human girl," Vex had said, pointing at Maya. "She claims her species deserves respect. Let her prove it in our traditional way, the arena trial." They were brutal tests of survival broadcast across the station for entertainment. Warriors entered. Many did not leave. "She is a student, not a soldier," Chen had protested. Vex had smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then perhaps humans should send soldiers instead of children to represent them." Now standing in the waiting chamber, she checked her gear one final time. She had refused weapons. The Crithians had laughed at that too. Instead, she carried climbing rope, hooks, and gloves with grip padding. Tools, not weapons. The chamber door opened. Vex stood there, massive and confident. "The odds makers give you 1 hour," he said. "That is how long most trained warriors survive against our standard predator gauntlet. You will face 3 creatures. If you survive 1 hour, you pass. If you defeat all 3 creatures, you win glory." He paused, "though no one expects you to do either. Each one will try to kill you. We bred them for this purpose." "We shall see." Holograms would be showing her face, her measurements, her homeworld. "Representing the human species," the announcer's voice boomed. "Maya Brooks of Earth, height 1.6 meters, weight 54 kilograms, age 19 cycles. Survival probability 8%. The dome stretched 300 meters across, with artificial terrain built inside. Rocks and boulders clustered on one side. A water feature ran through the middle, creating a small stream and pool. Vegetation grew in patches, tough alien plants that could survive the damage from fighting. The walls rose 30 meters high, with observation platforms where thousands of aliens watched. Screens floated in the air, showing her from multiple angles. She saw herself on them, small and alone in the vast space. Maya took a deep breath. The air smelled like metal and something else, something wild. The creatures were close. She thought about her father then. Jack Brooks had raised her in the Alaskan wilderness after her mother died. He taught her to track, to climb, to read the land and weather. He taught her that survival was not about being stronger than nature. It was about being smarter. "The biggest bear in the forest will always be bigger than you," he used to say. "So don't fight like a bear, fight like a human. Release the first creature." Instead, she moved quickly toward the nearest cluster of rocks, her eyes scanning the terrain, mapping every feature, every possibility. The creature emerged from the gate. It was huge, 6-legged with armored plating across its back and shoulders. Its head was wide and flat with jaws that could crush bone. A razorback, she would later learn, native to a high-gravity world. It saw her and charged. Maya ran. The razorback moved faster than Maya expected. Its 6 legs pounded against the arena floor like drums, creating vibrations she could feel through her boots. The creature weighed at least 800 pounds, all muscle and armor plating. When it roared, the sound echoed off the dome walls. Maya sprinted toward the rock formation she had spotted. The crowd noise changed, becoming excited screams and cheers. They wanted to see the chase. They wanted to see her fail. She reached the rocks and jumped, grabbing onto a ledge and pulling herself up. Her fingers found holds easily. Years of climbing Alaskan cliffs had taught her body exactly how to move. She scaled 10 feet in seconds, then 15, then 20. The Razorback slammed into the base of the rocks below her. The impact shook the entire formation. Dust and small stones rained down. The creature snarled and tried to climb after her, but its claws could not grip the smooth stone surface. Maya kept climbing until she reached a wide ledge about 25 feet up. She crouched there, breathing hard, watching the creature below. The Razorback circled the rock formation, searching for a way up. It was intelligent enough to problem solve, which made it dangerous. But Maya was not looking at its teeth or claws. She was watching how it moved. The creature kept its head low, almost level with its shoulders. Its eyes were positioned on the sides of its flat skull, giving it wide peripheral vision but poor upward sight. Every few seconds it stopped and pressed its body close to the ground, staying perfectly still. Maya understood. It was feeling for vibrations. The Razorback hunted by sensing movement through the earth. On its home world, prey probably lived underground or in caves. The creature evolved to track them through ground tremors. She stayed motionless on her ledge, barely breathing. The Razorback grew frustrated. It roared again and began circling wider, moving away from the rocks toward the open arena floor. Maya scanned the area from her high position. The rock formation she was on was actually part of a larger cluster. Boulders and stone pillars stretched across this section of the arena, some stable and some deliberately placed to be unstable. She could see gaps and cracks where supports had been weakened. An idea formed in her mind. She picked up a small stone from the ledge and threw it as far as she could toward the other side of the arena. It landed near the water feature with a sharp crack. The Razorback's head snapped toward the sound. It charged in that direction, moving at full speed. When it reached the spot where the stone landed, it stopped and searched, confused. Maya used the moment to move. She climbed horizontally across the rock face, moving from her formation toward another cluster of boulders about 30 feet away. Her movements were smooth and controlled. No vibrations reached the ground. She reached the second formation and studied it carefully. 3 large boulders were stacked against each other, leaning at angles. Below them was a gap like a small cave. The whole structure looked precarious, held together by balance rather than strength. The Razorback was still searching near the water. Maya needed to bring it back to her position. She picked up a larger rock, the size of her fist, and waited. When the creature turned in her general direction, she threw the rock down hard. It struck the arena floor directly below her position with a loud bang. The Razorback's head shot up. It saw the movement and charged immediately, covering the distance in seconds. Its massive body slammed into the boulder cluster where Maya was positioned, but Maya was already moving. She had jumped to another rock the moment she threw the stone. She landed on a narrow pillar 10 feet away and immediately scrambled higher. The Razorback tried to follow her vibrations, but the impact of its own body created confusing signals. It crashed between the boulders, trying to reach her, its armored shoulders wedging between the stones. Maya climbed onto the tallest boulder in the formation, now 30 feet above the arena floor. She could see the whole structure below her. The boulders were shifting with each of the Razorback's movements. The creature was strong, but it was also making the formation unstable. She waited for the right moment. The Razorback pulled back for another charge. Maya jumped up and down on her boulder, creating maximum vibration. The creature felt it immediately and charged straight at her position with all its strength. At the last second, Maya leaped to a different rock, one she knew was stable. The Razorback crashed into the boulder formation with its full weight. The impact was enormous. The carefully balanced stones shifted, one boulder tipped, then another. The whole structure began to collapse. The creature tried to retreat, but it was too late. Tons of rock came down on top of it. The sound was like thunder. Dust exploded into the air, covering everything. Maya held onto her safe position, waiting for the dust to settle. When it cleared, she saw the Razorback trapped beneath the rubble. Only its head and front legs were visible. It struggled but could not move. The weight was too much even for its incredible strength. The creature was alive but defeated, neutralized without Maya ever touching it. The arena fell silent. Not a single voice made a sound. On the observation platforms, thousands of aliens stared in disbelief. The floating screens showed replay after replay of what had just happened. Maya checked the arena's main timer. 8 minutes had passed since the trial began. Vex's voice came over the speakers, tight with suppressed anger. "The first creature is neutralized. This is unexpected." He paused. "We will proceed to the second challenge immediately." Vex was changing the rules, trying to catch her unprepared. A different gate opened on the opposite side of the arena. Maya turned to look, her muscles already tired from climbing, but her mind sharp and alert. Something flew out of the gate, wings spread wide. It screeched, a piercing sound that hurt her ears. A skywing, a flying predator with razor talons and a wingspan of 15 feet. Maya looked at the water feature in the center of the arena. Then she smiled. She climbed down from her rock and ran toward the stream. The skywing circled high above the arena, its shadow passing over Maya like a dark cloud. The creature had leathery wings stretched between elongated arm bones, similar to earth bats but 10 times larger. Its body was sleek and muscular, built for speed and precision strikes. The talons on its feet curved like knives, designed to grab and tear. Maya ran toward the water feature, her boots splashing through the shallow edges of the stream. The skywing screeched again, banking in the air to follow her movement. She could hear its wings cutting through the air with each powerful stroke. The water feature was more complex than it looked from a distance. The stream flowed from an artificial spring, creating a pool about 20 feet across and perhaps 5 feet deep at its center. Vegetation grew thick around the edges, tall reeds and broad-leafed plants that the arena designers had placed for cover. Maya did not hide in the plants. Instead, she waded into the pool until the water reached her waist. The cold shocked her system, but she forced herself to stay calm. She turned to face the sky, watching the skywing circle lower. The creature was studying her just as she had studied the razorback. It flew in tighter circles, dropping altitude with each pass. Maya could see its head turning, eyes locked on her position. It was calculating the best angle of attack. She thought about the eagles and hawks her father had shown her in Alaska. Raptors hunted with pattern and precision. They preferred to strike from behind or above, using the sun to blind their prey. They rarely attacked targets in water because wet feathers meant grounded birds. The skywing was not exactly like an earth raptor, but the principles might be similar. Maya reached down and grabbed handfuls of mud from the bottom of the pool. She packed it into rough balls and set them on a flat rock beside the water within easy reach. Then she waited. The skywing made its decision. It pulled its wings tight and dove, dropping from 50 feet up like a missile. Its talons extended forward, ready to grab and lift. Maya dove underwater the moment the creature committed to its dive. The cold darkness of the pool surrounded her. She felt the displacement of air and water above as the skywing passed through the space where she had been standing. She surfaced quickly, gasping for air. The skywing had pulled up at the last second, frustrated by the missed strike. It climbed back into the air, screeching with anger. The crowd noise increased. They had not expected this. The small human was using the environment in ways most warriors never considered. The skywing circled again, higher this time. It was learning. The next attack would be different. Maya moved to the edge of the pool where the vegetation grew thickest. She grabbed armfuls of the broad-leafed plants and began weaving them together quickly. Her fingers worked fast, creating a loose canopy structure. She braced it between 2 rocks near the water's edge, making a shelter barely large enough for her to crouch under. The skywing dove again, this time from a different angle. Maya scrambled under her makeshift shelter. The creature's talons ripped through the plant material but could not reach her beneath. The skywing's momentum carried it past, and it had to pull up hard to avoid crashing into the rocks. Maya emerged from the damaged shelter and grabbed one of her mud balls. As the skywing banked to come around for another pass, she threw the mud with all her strength. The throw was not meant to hurt the creature. It was meant to distract. The mud ball flew through the air and splattered against the skywing's wing membrane. The creature jerked in surprise, its flight pattern disrupting for just a moment. That moment was enough. Maya threw 2 more mud balls in quick succession. One missed, but the other hit the skywing's face, covering one eye. The creature screeched in fury and dove straight at her, abandoning strategy for rage. Maya ran into the deeper part of the pool and dove under again. This time, she stayed down longer, swimming to a different position. Her lungs burned, but she counted seconds in her head. When she surfaced, she was 10 feet from where she had disappeared. The skywing had committed too hard to its angry dive. It hit the water surface at high speed, trying to grab where it thought Maya would be. The splash was enormous. The creature's wings, designed for air, became instantly waterlogged. Maya watched as the skywing thrashed in the pool. It was not drowning. The water was not deep enough for that, but its wings were soaked and heavy. The creature tried to lift off, beating its wings desperately, but water sprayed everywhere and it could not gain altitude. She moved quickly. While the Skywing struggled in the center of the pool, Maya waded to the edge and climbed out. She ran to the thick vegetation and used her climbing rope to lash together a trap, a loose net made from vines and her own cord. The Skywing finally managed to drag itself out of the water on the opposite side of the pool. It stood there, wings drooping, shaking water from its body. It was disoriented and exhausted. Maya approached carefully from the side, moving low and quiet. The creature's head was down, focused on trying to dry its wings. She circled around behind it. When she was in position, she threw a rock past the Skywing's head. The creature's hunting instinct kicked in. It turned sharply toward the movement, stumbling because its wings were still too heavy to balance properly. Maya threw her net. It was not perfect, but it tangled around the Skywing's wings and legs. The creature screeched and tried to tear free, but each movement only wrapped the vines tighter. She used the moment to loop her climbing rope around a nearby rock formation, creating an anchor. Then she pulled the net tighter, securing the rope. The Skywing was trapped, unable to spread its wings or move effectively. Maya stepped back, breathing hard. The creature was defeated, contained without serious injury. She looked up at the timer. 14 minutes total had passed since the trial began. The arena erupted in confused noise. Some aliens cheered. Others argued loudly. This was not how arena trials usually went. Warriors typically fought with strength and weapons, not tactics and environment. Maya saw Vex on the observation platform. His forearms were crossed, and his expression was dark with frustration. His voice boomed over the speakers. "Protocol will be adjusted. The final creature will be released now." Releasing all three creatures back-to-back with no rest period was almost unheard of. It was meant to break her. The largest gate in the arena began to open. Maya heard something moving inside, something that breathed with deep, rumbling sounds. The Thornmaw emerged, and Maya's confidence wavered for the first time. The Thornmaw stood 9 feet tall at the shoulder. Its body was covered in thick, dark scales that looked like overlapping shields. 6 eyes positioned around its massive head gave it almost complete vision in all directions. The creature's mouth was filled with rows of teeth designed for tearing, and its 4 legs ended in clawed feet that left deep marks in the arena floor with each step. But what made Maya's heart race was the intelligence in those eyes. This was not a simple predator driven by instinct. The Thornmaw watched her with calculated focus, studying her position, her movement, her breathing. It was thinking. The creature did not charge. Instead, it walked slowly into the arena, keeping distance between them. Its head turned constantly, examining the terrain, the rocks where the Razorback lay trapped, the pool where the Skywing still struggled in the net. Maya backed away slowly, never turning her back on the creature. Her mind raced through possibilities. The Thornmaw was too large to trap with falling rocks. It could probably swim, so the water would not help. And those 6 eyes meant she could not approach from a blind spot easily. The creature moved toward the rock formation first, investigating the collapsed boulders. It sniffed at the trapped Razorback, then looked back at Maya. It was learning from what she had done to the other creatures. It was adapting its strategy before even engaging her. Maya needed information. She needed to understand how this creature moved, how it hunted, what weaknesses it might have. She ran toward the vegetation area, moving at full speed. Behind her, she heard the Thornmaw's footsteps, but they were measured, not rushing. It was following but not committing to a full chase yet. Maya reached the thick plants and dove into cover. She crawled quickly through the undergrowth, moving quietly despite her racing pulse. She found a position where she could see out through the leaves without being easily spotted. The Thornmaw approached the vegetation slowly. It stopped at the edge and lowered its head, sniffing the ground. Then it did something unexpected. It circled around the entire vegetation patch, checking all sides, looking for exits and escape routes. This creature was a pack hunter. Maya realized it with sudden clarity. The Thornmaw was hunting her the way a wolf hunts deer, cutting off escape, controlling the terrain. The fact that it was alone did not change its instincts. She waited perfectly still. The Thornmaw completed its circle and then stepped into the vegetation, moving carefully. Its 6 eyes scanned constantly. The creature was not fooled by simple hiding. Maya moved the instant the Thornmaw was deep enough into the plants. She crawled backward, exiting from the side the creature had already checked, betting it would not expect her to go to a position it had cleared. She was right. She emerged from the vegetation and ran toward the arena's central structure, a tall artificial rock formation that the arena designers had built as a centerpiece. It rose 40 feet high with multiple levels and platforms. The Thornmaw heard her movement and spun around with surprising speed for such a large creature. It burst from the vegetation and charged, finally committing to a full pursuit. Maya ran harder than she had ever run in her life. Her legs burned. Her lungs ached. The climbing gear on her belt bounced and rattled with each step. Behind her, the Thornmaw's heavy footfalls sounded like thunder getting closer and closer. She reached the central structure and jumped, grabbing the lowest handhold and pulling herself up. Her arms screamed in protest, already exhausted from the earlier climbs, but she forced them to work. Up, up, always up. The Thornmaw reached the base of the structure and reared onto its hind legs, trying to reach her. Its claws scraped against the rock just inches below her feet. Maya climbed faster, not looking down. She reached the first platform, 15 feet up. The Thornmaw could not climb the smooth surface. It dropped back to all fours and circled the structure just as it had circled the vegetation. Maya used the moment to catch her breath and observe. From this height, she could see the creature clearly. She watched how it moved, how it breathed, what it did when frustrated. The Thornmaw was incredibly strong and fast, but it was also heavy. Every movement required significant energy. After its charge across the arena and the attempt to climb, the creature's breathing had increased, not much but enough to notice. It had limits. Everything had limits. Maya started moving again, climbing higher on the structure. She reached a second platform, then a third. The Thornmaw followed below, always tracking her position with those multiple eyes. When she was 30 feet up, Maya deliberately kicked a piece of loose rock off the platform. It fell and struck the ground near the Thornmaw. The creature dodged it easily, but its response time told her something important. The left side was slightly slower. Perhaps an old injury, or perhaps just the way the creature's brain processed information from 6 eyes. She needed to test it more. Maya climbed to the edge of the platform and used her rope to lower herself down the opposite side of the structure, away from where the Thornmaw waited. When her feet touched ground, she ran again. The creature heard her and came around the structure, but Maya had bought herself distance. She ran toward the area of the arena she had not yet explored, where scattered rocks and rough terrain created an obstacle course. The Thornmaw charged after her, closing the gap quickly. Maya zigzagged between rocks, forcing the creature to constantly adjust its path. Each turn, each adjustment, cost it energy. She led it on a winding chase through the terrain, sometimes climbing, sometimes crawling, always moving. The Thornmaw followed relentlessly, but Maya noticed its breathing growing heavier. The creature was tiring, so was she. Her muscles trembled with exhaustion, sweat soaked her clothes, her hands were scraped and bleeding from climbing rough rocks, but she had a plan now. Maya circled back toward the central structure, keeping just ahead of the Thornmaw. The creature was fully committed to the chase now, focused entirely on catching her. Its tactical approach from earlier was replaced by determined pursuit. She reached the base of the central structure and started climbing again. The Thornmaw arrived seconds later and roared in frustration. The sound echoed through the entire dome. Maya was 15 minutes into fighting the Thornmaw. Her total time was 29 minutes. But she was ready now. She understood the creature, and she knew how to win. Maya climbed to the highest platform of the central structure, her arms shaking with each pull. Below her, the Thornmaw paced in circles, its 6 eyes never leaving her position. The creature's breathing was heavy now, its massive chest rising and falling with the effort of the long chase. She had led it across the entire arena 3 times, forcing it to run, turn, climb, and adapt. The Thornmaw was still dangerous, still strong, but it was no longer at full strength. Neither was Maya, but she had one advantage. She was thinking 3 steps ahead. From the top platform, Maya examined the central structure's design. The artificial rock formation had been built with multiple support pillars creating the levels and platforms. Most of the pillars were solid, meant to hold weight and withstand impacts, but one section looked different. On the northeast side, 2 pillars held up a large decorative boulder at the 20-foot level. The pillars were thinner than the others, and the boulder they supported had cracks running through it. The designers had probably intended it as a dramatic visual element, something to make the structure look ancient and weathered. Maya studied the angles and positions. If the pillars gave way, the boulder would fall. And directly below that spot was open ground where the Thornmaw now stood. She needed to position the creature exactly right and time everything perfectly. Maya climbed down one level, deliberately making noise by kicking at loose stones. The Thornmaw's attention locked onto her movement. The creature moved to stay directly below her, anticipating where she might come down. Good. That was what she needed. Maya pulled out her climbing rope and secured one end to a solid anchor point on the platform. She tested it twice, making sure it would hold her weight. Then she tied the other end around her waist in a harness knot her father had taught her years ago. The crowd had gone almost silent. Thousands of aliens watched, trying to understand what the small human was planning. Maya moved to the edge of the platform closest to the damaged section with the thin pillars. She looked down at the Thornmaw, meeting its six-eyed gaze. "Come on," she whispered. "Just a little closer." The rope caught her after a 10-foot drop, and she swung like a pendulum across the face of the structure. The Thornmaw roared and lunged at her swinging form, but she was just out of reach. Its massive body slammed against the base of the structure. The impact shook the entire formation. Dust fell from cracks and crevices. Maya's swing carried her to the far side. She grabbed onto a handhold and pulled herself against the rock face. Then she pushed off hard with her legs, swinging back toward the Thornmaw. The creature tracked her movement, positioned itself, and lunged again when she swung close. Another massive impact against the structure, more shaking. The thin pillars supporting the decorative boulder trembled. Maya swung a third time, but now she adjusted her angle. She kicked off from a different point, changing her trajectory. When she swung back, she was heading directly toward the damaged section. The Thornmaw, committed to its pattern, moved to intercept her. It reared up on its hind legs and slammed its full weight against the structure right at the base of the thin pillars. The pillars cracked. Maya heard the sound like breaking bone. She twisted in the air, grabbing onto a platform support beam as the decorative boulder above shifted. The Thornmaw sensed the danger a fraction of a second too late. It tried to move, but the boulder was already falling. 2 tons of artificial rock crashed down directly onto the creature's head and shoulders. The impact drove the Thornmaw to the ground. The boulder cracked into 3 large pieces on contact, spreading across the creature's upper body. The Thornmaw collapsed, its legs folding beneath it, its eyes closed. The creature went still. Maya hung from the support beam, breathing hard, staring at the fallen predator. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then she saw the Thornmaw's chest rise and fall. It was unconscious but alive. She had won. Maya pulled herself up to the platform and untied the rope from her waist with trembling fingers. She looked up at the arena's main timer. 17 minutes. Total time elapsed since the trial began was 17 minutes. The silence in the arena broke like a dam bursting. The crowd erupted in noise, a mixture of cheers, shouts, and stunned exclamations in dozens of different languages. The sound was deafening. Maya climbed down slowly, her body moving on pure determination because her muscles had nothing left to give. When her feet touched the arena floor, her legs nearly gave out. She steadied herself against a rock and looked up at the observation platforms. Vex stood at the railing of the main platform, all 4 of his arms gripping the metal bar. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between shock and grudging respect. His voice came over the speakers, and this time there was no mockery in it. "The trial is complete. Maya Brooks of Earth has defeated all 3 creatures. Total time, 17 minutes. This is a new arena record." The arena gates opened, and medical teams rushed in to check on the creatures. Maya walked toward the exit on her own power, refusing to show any more weakness than she had to. Ambassador Chen met her at the entrance. His eyes were wet with tears he was trying to hide. "You did it, Maya, you actually did it." He told her that the Crithian Empire had underestimated humanity and that this would not happen again. Trade agreements that had been stalled for months were suddenly approved. Colony rights were granted. And most importantly, the way other species looked at humans shifted. They were no longer just Deathworlders who had gotten lucky with a harsh planet. They were survivors who turned intelligence into strength. Within days, Maya's victory spread across the station and beyond. Other human students on Nexus Prime found themselves treated with new respect. Opportunities appeared that had not existed before. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in front of a classroom filled with alien students from a dozen different species. They had come to learn what they were calling human tactics, the art of using environment and intelligence to overcome superior physical strength. She looked at the eager faces and thought about her father's lessons in the Alaskan wilderness. Survival was never about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about understanding your environment, adapting to challenges, and never giving up. The first lesson, Maya began, is simple. Never fight the battle your opponent expects.